It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Welcome back. Happy Africa Day. Yes, we are celebrating the connections on this continent. Let's enhance them just a little bit. Achieving free trade within Africa is a significant goal that has gained momentum in recent years. We can understand those driving factors. The African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, as it stands, was officially launched in 2021 and seeks to create a single market for goods and services across Africa. Seems like a great idea. How do we get it done, and how close are we to achieving this? Well, Llewellyn Devereaux, business speaker and author of The Mastery Code, joins us for this discussion this Africa Day. Great to have you here, my friend.
Oh, happy Africa Day. Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday, because every day is Africa Day, my friend.
Oh, definitely.
Because it's our lived experience every day. We talk about sustainability, a sustainable future. We've been sustaining for a while now.
Doing our best.
Yeah, we've found a way to operate with, I want to say, within and without the grid. And I'm not talking about the electricity grid. But when we talk about unity in this sense and true prosperity for this continent, and we've got the African Union's 2063 goals as kind of highlighting the true north. Are we getting closer to this idea, this threshold? How do you see this notion of free trade within Africa?
I mean, it's quite a layered question, but for the most part, you have to understand that like Africa hasn't been trading with itself.
Yeah.
Right. So if you look at like just the numbers itself, like intra-Africa like trade is at 19%, whereas like I think in Asia it's like 69% and Europe is I think 59%, right? So we aren't trading with each other because of all the different layers that are there that like prohibit countries from trading. You know, the systems, right? Because you have to get, you know, the tariffs or whatever they are. Sometimes you can't even get your goods or whatever. You can't even get yourself.
You can't even make the goods before.
So to answer your question, it really is. I guess it has to start somewhere. Right. I can't go and say it's a perfect picture, right? Everything is great, whatever the case. But at least one thing I do know is that the right things are being said, the right things are being put into motion. So it's a good start. It's a good idea because you have to be able to visualize where you're trying to take people at a macro sense.
Completely. If people can't see it, they cannot achieve it. We know this. This is the human condition.
That's just what it is.
We joke about the cliche of representation, but that speaks to every level of life. We need to be able to see it. What does this look like, though? Because not everyone has the financial cushion to be able to help others across that line. So what does fair trade look like in Africa? Is it the wealthier nations cushioning the blow for how do we remodel the system, or where the system's engaged to achieve it?
No, I think it's more about Africa getting to a place where we just have a bit of pride in ourselves, right? It's like, so Africa as a country has a sense of pride in itself. And it's like, you looked at how COVID was, where, you know, the vaccines, we were last in the line.
And
I think right now
even though we made one of them.
Exactly, we realized we're like, actually, we're done here. Like now there's a sense of, with the geopolitical shifts that are happening in the world right now, China, Russia, America, whatever's happening right now, it's like, we're realizing, listen, bro, let us get our act together, because whatever's going to be happening right now, Africa's going to be lost. So I think right now it comes down to the element of pride and being able to say, okay, cool, like how are we taking care, how are we saying what market do we want going forward? And it comes down to Africans really saying, we want to be able to have conversations with ourselves, we want to be able to trade with ourselves, we want to be able to create our own Africa that we want, versus waiting for the world to come and save us, because we're done with that. Like, well, I'm done.
It's a different reality now, and I think we've gotten that. There was such a disconnect between these realities over that 3-year break from COVID, that the economic realities, socio-economic, political, spiritual, we're different pockets of reality now. That being said, where do we start? Is it the small businessman, as we, I think, in our heart of hearts believe is going to be the backbone, certainly from a South African perspective? Is it big business? Is it a handshake? How does this look in terms of the practical next step?
No, I think it's really just about understanding that we're creating an ecosystem. Everyone's always saying, hey, you know, start a business, but it's like you build a product, you create a product, and then, but who are you selling it to?
Where's the supply?
Like who's buying it? Yeah, you've got all these products, but who's buying it? So it's like understanding that, like, you know, we have young people right now that have been growing up right now with that, they don't have those blocks in their minds. And we obviously have a culture that has been appropriating like a find a job mentality, which is obviously changing, because the more these kids are exposed, they're seeing whatever they, I mean...
It's now find my purpose,
you know
not
what I'm trying to say?
my money,
dude, I want a career, and they can define their careers like from a young age, whereas with us, it was like later, like we had to first get exposed, like internet, like it was a big deal for us, you know? So the practical steps is just accepting that like all these forces are coming together by themselves, because the young guys are talking to each other. And as a result of that, as long as the governments and the policies can allow like fluidity, and people to move, which is what Adam Smith calls it the invisible hand. Let them move by themselves, right? Let them find each other. But once that happens in its own right, with the right framework and infrastructure, everything will flow by itself. So you can't really actually say you want ABC to happen. But one thing I do know is internet is a very big thing.
Oh, for sure.
That is a very big thing right there.
We're going to continue this discussion. I didn't think it would get this emotional, but I absolutely love it because it is an emotional conversation. It's one of belief. It's one of, yes, representation, but it's also a real-time conversation that's changing as the words come out of our mouth. I know there are young people adapting and being elastic based on what they're hearing right now, and that's what it takes to succeed in the climate today. You've got all the tools. Let's find out how we can tap into them. We are talking free trade in Africa on Africa Day.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
As we celebrate Africa Day, happy Africa Day, we continue our discussion around the vision of achieving free trade within the African continent. And joining us is business speaker and author, and I think just a mentor to us all, the author of The Mastery Code, Llewellyn Devereaux. Just chatting to you is amazing, dude, so thank you so much for being here and propagating the conversation that you are, because it's time for kind of the tire to hit the tar, so to speak, when it comes to Africa's story.
Yeah.
When it comes to economic development, free trade would be great. What are the crystallized outcomes? When we talk about the 2063 goals, why 2063, first of all? What does that entail? Yeah, what is that true north? I used that term earlier. So what are we aiming for here?
I mean, it's free movement of goods, of services, and of people. I mean, just that's the most important thing right there. How do we get goods to the right places?
Multicolored passport.
That's what it is. And like a passport that allows you to move freely in the continent, right? That's what it is. They've done that in Europe, whatever the case is, but we haven't done it yet. You need visas to go to other countries in this continent. It's like, and obviously because Africa was developed or was built in such a way to kind of extract things from it, right? Yeah. So now we're saying no. We're saying the vision for it is Africa being its own continent, being its own trading like block, and being able to just move and like shift and share ideas.
And be
that's what it comes down to. Yeah, that's what it is. And control the narrative our own way.
I'm so glad you said our own way, because these are very unique, very localized solutions. I'm talking about, I encountered a story where some 6-year-olds from Khayelitsha playing a computer game redesigned their block to remove a dump that kept popping up. Over a decade, they've been trying to remove that dump. Those kids figured it out with a computer game. African solutions for African problems.
Yes.
When we look at what the opportunities are economically, I'm thinking we need to build power grids. We've got all the materials here. Is that the opportunity? Where do you see this first phase of growth playing out now that we are taking ownership of our own financial freedom, so to speak?
I think it's more about, really seeing. I think Africa as a continent has been constipated as like a word, right?
For sure.
And I think there's this creativity that's waiting to just explode. And I think digitally is where it's going to be easier, because obviously there's no barriers in terms of digital, in terms of digital merging, right? And I think for where we are right now, just seeing these young kids being able to share and grow ideas and being able to create new channels for themselves. I mean, they've had a saying that like, grade 7s of today, 53% of the jobs they'll be doing in the future don't exist today.
Yeah, for sure.
So like, can you imagine right now what's going to be happening in the future as it is? And that's what I'm saying. It's like, it's at a place where we have to feel like Africa's a dope place to be. Yeah. And we have to construct a narrative and say, yes, the colonization is done, but now we have to say, this is our expression of what we see a wealthy Africa being.
We have to accept the notion colonialism is done, the system is still there. Apartheid is done, the system is still there. And you can load judgment onto that as much as you want to say who is to blame, but that keeps us in the past or it projects us into the future. It doesn't speak to the lived experience right now. If I gave you $1 billion to invest in Africa, how would you do that?
USD or Rand?
Which would you prefer, maybe is the right way to ask. So if I had to give you $1 billion, if I had to coerce Donald Trump through Gary Player, a good mate of ours, to come and invest $1 billion, how would you do that? To spark this idea, to change this narrative.
How would I do it, or what would I do with it?
What would you do with it?
Firstly, I think in internet, telecoms is the first important thing. I think the most important thing, if you look at like how, people don't know this, but Europe was actually quite poor in the 1500s until this guy called Martin Luther came through with the Protestant Reformation and decided to translate the Bible from Latin to German. Just that information spread, created this whole entire thing that where the monarchies actually fell apart. So I think the first thing is, how do you allow information to spread
Democratize
freely?
Information.
Because we don't understand how important just having access to information actually is. Like, it's like the biggest thing, right? People just walk past it like it's nothing. And I think that's the first thing. Telecoms, make sure that the data costs are like close to zero. Number one, let these kids just get out of their way. Just get it. Just let the guys just get out of our way.
Take your baggage out of their hand.
That's
step away.
And then from the infrastructure. Infrastructure is an important thing. I mean, roads. Just get people. Information is the most important thing. Get people reading. That's number one. And then see the magic happen by itself. That's the first part I'd start.
Okay, I love that. And just give data away for free. We've seen what it can do.
Let it just go.
I love that. I absolutely love this notion. if you could speak to a young person who is grappling with the insanity of the world right now, this polarization, but also the opportunity to have access to almost anyone. You can DM anyone in the world right now. What advice would you have for them on a personal level? Because when my son comes to me and says, I can do an asteroid mining degree in university now, and you can.
Yes.
What kind of future are we working towards? I've lost touch with where they are going. What would you say to a young person to prepare them for the Africa that's on the way?
Like I tell everybody all the time, I'm like, prepare your mind, weaponize your mind. That's the first thing. It's like if the mind isn't able to visualize a reality, it cannot walk through it straight into it. So the first thing is like information is at your fingertips. Use that. Those are weapons. Because we take it for granted how much information is freely available to us right now.
Yeah.
But the first thing I tell people, I'm like, okay, I see everything. Do you read?
Yeah.
Because your language and how you interact with your vocabulary determines how you see the world.
Yeah.
So the more vocabulary you can add to yourself, with the more weapons you add to your arsenal. So the first thing is be aware of what's happening, not necessarily in the world, but firstly in yourself.
Yeah.
And from there, let art or let an expression of yourself with the African context come out. Because I think right now Africa is at a place where we have to create unique expressions of a dope Africa we want to see.
Yeah.
That's where it is. So I think it's all about that internal process before we start focusing on the external and the, what the world is. Because the world can take you anything. Everyone's going to tell us, go this way. I'm just like, I'm done. Like, I'm at a place where I'm like, I'm done. This is what we're going to take, where we're going to take Africa, and this is why I'm taking this specific aspect of Africa. And we have to have that identity and be really ballsy about it.
Yeah.
So, but it comes down to weaponizing the mind first. That's just, first and foremost, weaponize the mind with information.
And there is a wealth of information out there. And find yourself a good mentor. I joked about the DMing. I have a feeling he's one who will respond to the DM. Llewellyn, thank you so much, my man. Thank you for just embodying all of this every day, not just in these opportunities to put your hand up, but every day living this truth, my brother.
We have to.
And we do, and that's the bottom line.
If we don't do it, who will?
It's not a nice to have, it's a must have. And if you want to predict this crazy future that we're moving into, one easy way, go and create it.